So there's all this kind of arbitrary pressures on us that I think really take away from our happiness that are related to time and this kind of super precise timekeeping. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Good Problems to Have with David Nima. I'm your host and author of the book, Good Problems to Have, The Anatomy of Contemporary Happiness. Our goal on this channel is to help spread love, peace, joy, health, wealth, and happiness to every person, 1 nanosecond at a time. Make sure to like and subscribe to GPH Lifestyle on YouTube and Instagram, and share this channel with your friends who you think can benefit from more happiness in their lives. In today's episode, we're going to be discussing the concept of time. Okay, time is, I think, an important element of the human experience. And I think in modern contemporary society, people put a lot of emphasis and importance on the concept of time. I think too much importance, as we'll talk about more in this book. I discuss time in chapter 5 of Good Problems to Have. So this is going to be based on some of the discussions in that book. And I have my trusty e-version here with me, which I'll be kind of referring to during this video. So let's talk about the concept of time and what it means and how it relates to happiness. Time has fascinated, I think, humans for centuries, right? And I think there's history out there that discusses how time has been measured by human societies throughout history. You know, you go back to things like Stonehenge, and you have sundials, for example. The Romans used clocks to kind of measure time. So there's a rich history of timekeeping throughout human history. But I think what's very, very important is that precise timekeeping, down to the second, was not around until the 19th century. So you have, about 10,000 years of human civilization history without precise timekeeping, right? Time, as we know it now, is a legal invention. It's a legal fiction. The reason you know what time it is right now is because that time is dictated by the government of the territory in which you are residing. Okay? The day and time of day, right? Say, for example, 9:13 a.m. and 26 seconds. If that's the time right now, that time is dictated by the government. The reason that's so is because, as you know, for example, in some parts of the world, there's daylight savings, right? There's daylight savings, and they essentially switch the time, right? They arbitrarily change the clocks, right? Now, of course, there's a policy reason behind that, but the point is that the government is the entity that decides that, one day it is, 9 a.m., and the next day, because you spring forward, it's now 10 a.m., even though it's the same exact time. So the government dictates time. In fact, the Standard Time Act was passed by U.S. Congress in 1918 to make time kind of uniform and set up time zones in the United States. And of course, most governments worldwide abide by these kind of standardized timekeeping practices because they work well together and they want to coordinate with each other, and so that's why they keep time. But that's the function of time, right? And that's the government has essentially put in place a standard or a mechanism for precise timekeeping, and the reason for that is just so that when I want to take a airplane ride from Los Angeles to New York on, at 12 p.m. on Wednesday, for example, I know where to go and when to go there. Okay, so it's good for coordination. If I ask my friend to meet me for a cup of coffee Saturday at 11:30 a.m., that's useful because we now know exactly kind of when to meet for coffee. Okay, so this timekeeping has utility, but only in the sense of coordination with others. only in that sense, right? You know that you have to be at work at 8 in the morning. You know you have to pick up your kids by 2:30 p.m., right? You know you have to pay your mortgage on the first of the month, or you have to pay your bills on a certain time of the month. So these kind of timekeeping practices in modern contemporary society have a utility, like I said, to coordinate different things, and it enables us to essentially live in this kind of civilized society that has so much commerce and so much essentially what you would call reliance on one another to, deliver food, for example, to your supermarket so that you can go to the supermarket and get food. 5,000 years ago, there was real no need to, have time measurements, because there was no time when the supermarket would open. If you're hungry, you go outside, you kill an animal, and you bring it inside and you eat it. And you probably do that during daylight hours, right? Which kind of takes me to my next point here, which is natural time, right? Natural time is way different than, 8:52 a.m. on Monday, June 5th. Okay, natural time, and the way I kind of think about time, because in nature, there is no 7 a.m., okay? There is no 7:30 a.m. There is not, okay? What happens in nature is throughout the day, different kind of events happen, okay? You have daybreak, right? Which is the moment where first light kind of comes into the sky where you are on Earth, right? Before then you have sunrise, okay? And after sunrise, you have kind of morning. You have the true morning time, right? And then after morning, you have noon. Some people call it high noon. And after that, you have the afternoon, right? Let's say around the 12 o'clock to 3 o'clock hour, roughly, right? And after that, you have the evening, okay? Which is kind of like the pre-sunset time. And then you have sunset. And then you have nightfall, which is the moment where the sky turns pitch black. And then that goes on again until daybreak the following day. I mean, that is the natural way of keeping time. That's how my dog keeps time, right? My dog knows every day when night falls. My dog knows when the first light appears. Trust me, he knows, because he wakes me up in the morning at that time. So, but the point is that, animals in the wild, they don't have a clock. They look at the sun and they keep time according to these kind of daily events, right? Again, daybreak, sunrise, morning, noon, afternoon, evening, sunset, and nightfall. Okay? So that is kind of a suggestion of mine to you in terms of how to kind of look at your day, And of course, depending on the time of year, morning happens at a different time, right? Or first light, right? Daybreak happens at a different kind of time according to the clock, right? According to the time of year, whether it's summer or winter and where you are on Earth. Right? But this way of kind of, I think, being more in tune with the day rather than the calendar and the clock has been really helpful to me in terms of just appreciating my day a little bit more and not being so beholden to, what time it is, and understanding time for its true utility. Related to time is this concept of age and birthdays, which I think is, again, just another kind of manifestation of contemporary kind of marketing and influences that are contrary to modern day happiness. And the reason for that is because, for example, if you understand that, again, precise timekeeping is a very modern invention. And before that, people didn't really know what day of the year it was, or even how old they are themselves. The point is your body isn't keeping time, okay? Not according to the clock and the calendar. Okay, so your body doesn't know when you've turned from 20 to 21 the next day. There's no significant difference in your physiology, right? So it just kind of proves that time is a legal fiction, and people put so much emphasis on, I want to do so and so by the time I am 25, and I want to do this by the time I am 35. and I better have this much, whatever by the time I'm 45. So there's all this kind of arbitrary pressures on us that I think really take away from our happiness, that are related to time and this kind of super precise timekeeping that, oh my God, by the time I hit whatever age, I want to do such and such and such a thing. Okay, there are very few things in life that are really governed by the passage of time. Not, again, like I said, nothing changes to your body on a day-to-day basis. Now, over time, there's maturity, but your body is not keeping track of that daily time. And kind of related to that, we have, the concept of like birthdays, like I said, and kind of like how old we are, right? I mean, to be honest with you, I rarely think about how old I am, and nor do I care. And when it comes to birthdays, I really celebrate every day. Okay, I celebrate myself and my life and all my blessings every day. And I think people wait all year to feel special on their birthday, right? And I think you can feel special every day. You deserve to. I mean, you're a human being and you're worthy, and it's a great day. Every day is the best day of your life, including today, right now. And this kind of concept has lent itself for me personally to not put so much emphasis on my birthday, right? And instead kind of celebrate and enjoy every day. Okay, so I think that's kind of has been really beneficial for me in improving my happiness by losing that kind of emphasis on of time and birthdays and how old I am and things. I don't even think in those terms anymore. And more importantly, when it comes to, like, let's say finding a romantic partner, I also barely think about their age as well. Of course, there's age parameters, like someone should be 18 and above. But beyond that, you can just completely dismiss a person's age and kind of have an opportunity to look at them, right? And see the real person and see if this is someone that you prefer to be with. And disregard the age. People put a lot of emphasis on people's age, their own age, and then their significant other's age. So that's kind of another thing that's been really beneficial to me. Again, just kind of like dismissing the concept of time, except when I need to keep precise timekeeping with others, like travel plans, for example, or delivery plans, or work plans, or maybe paying bills. And then also just kind of removing that kind of pressure of getting older, right? By keeping an eye on the clock, keeping an eye on the calendar, keeping an eye on the on my birthday and how old I am. And I think this just one more point about time is also when it comes to relationships, your brain is not measuring the value of the relationship according to the time how long that relationship was. I mean, a lot of people say, like, for example, let's say you hear somebody breaking up and they say, oh, how long were you guys together, right? And then somebody will say, oh, we were together for 3 years, right? And then, or somebody else will say, we were together for 30 years, okay? So, and my question is, what difference does it make, right? That person just is going through a breakup right now. They obviously felt very close to that other person. The relationship is now over. And some people say, oh, you guys only had 3 years together? That's too bad. I wish it could have been longer. And then some people will say, well, like, you guys had 30 years together and you ended it? Like, that's too bad. So, like, what is the correct amount of time or length for a relationship for it to not matter, right? And a lot of people, again, they just put so much emphasis on how long their relationship is. Celebrating marriage anniversaries, for example. These things are just completely, I think, you're missing the point. You're missing the point. What you want to be doing is cherishing every nanosecond that you have with your partner and in this relationship, knowing it's going to end. As I discuss in the book, no relationship ever throughout history has lasted forever, okay? All relationships eventually end. And I think that's another way that you can focus on the relationship and not on the time and how long that relationship is, and also tying your measurement of satisfaction to the length of the relationship, right? So if you had a long relationship, then it was a better relationship. And if you had a short relationship, then it was a worse relationship. I think the meaningfulness of the relationship is not tied to the time. Now, having a long relationship can increase its intensity because we're going to get more used to the other person and have more meaningful connections with the other person because we're such social beings. So that's definitely there. But just to focus on how long a relationship is rather than its meaningfulness, right? And also when the relationship ends, to judge the relationship based on the length of time that it was on, rather than its richness, right? All the pleasure and all the kind of joys that you received from that relationship. I think that's where people are missing the point and lowering their happiness on that level. So that's a little bit about time and how it's a legal fiction, and that how precise timekeeping has been a very modern concept in human society. And I think you're well off to really kind of forget about time and measure your day by the day's events, and measure your year and your life according to as needed coordination with others, right? But for your own at a personal level, how old you are is completely irrelevant. Okay? Thanks for listening, guys. Make sure to like and subscribe to GPH Lifestyle on YouTube and Instagram. Pick up a copy of Good Problems to Have, where I discuss time and all these details, along with much more tidbits in Chapter 5, and that's available on Amazon. I'm your host, David Nima, happiness expert and author of Good Problems to Have, and I'll see you all on the next video.